In a cave on the coast of Kenya, there is a small hole in the ground. Inside it, someone laid a child, a toddler, 2, maybe 3 years old, curled on their right side, knees pulled up to the chest, the way you'd tuck in someone who was only sleeping. The little body was wrapped in something soft, hide or leaves, that rotted away long ago. And under the head, where the bones had settled into an empty space, the scientists realized something almost unbearable. There had been a pillow. This happened 78,000 years ago. It is the oldest human grave ever found in Africa. And everything about it, the wrapping, the curled-up pose, the pillow beneath a dead child's head, is someone saying, across an impossible distance of time, "We loved you and we didn't want you to be cold." But to understand that grave, you have to go back to the very beginning of that child's life. Back to the single most dangerous thing our ancestors ever did. Not hunting mammoths, not fighting off lions, being born. Because the way humans have babies is, frankly, a disaster. And the story of how we survived it anyway is the story of how we became human at all. Here's the problem evolution handed us. Around 2 million years ago, our ancestors did 2 things at the same time. We stood up and started walking on 2 legs, which meant the hips and the bony birth canal inside them had to pull in narrower and tighter to work. And at that very same moment, our brains began to balloon. Bigger and bigger heads, trying to fit through a smaller and smaller opening. In 1960, an anthropologist named Washburn gave this collision a name: the obstetric dilemma. A big-brained baby and a birth canal built for walking that the baby barely fits through. Another scientist put it more bluntly. He called human childbirth a scar, left on our whole species by evolution. And it gets stranger. If you watch a monkey give birth, the baby comes out facing the mother. She can reach down, guide it, clear its face so it can breathe, even pull it gently toward her. Quick, and usually alone. A human baby can't do that. To get through our twisted, walking-shaped pelvis, the baby has to rotate, to corkscrew its way out, and it emerges facing the wrong way, facing away from the mother, which means she can't simply reach down and help her own child, the way every other primate can. So here is the first secret of how ancient humans had babies. They did not do it alone. We may be the only animal on Earth that needs help to give birth. Anthropologists call it obligate midwifery, and as far as we can tell, it's unique to us. Every culture ever studied, going back as far as we can see, had someone there. A mother, a sister, an older woman who had done this before. The midwife is not a modern invention. The midwife might be one of the oldest roles there is. And then, finally, the baby arrives. And there is no kind way to put this, useless. A newborn foal stands within an hour. A baby chimpanzee can grip its mother's fur and hang on within days. A human newborn can't even hold up its own head. It can't cling, can't walk, can't feed itself. It can do nothing at all except cry and be carried. For months. And this isn't a flaw either. Remember the dilemma. The head can only grow so big before it can't be born at all. So evolution's answer was to ship the baby early, half-built, to do the rest of the growing on the outside. Scientists have a cold name for it, secondary altriciality. But you might know the gentler version, the 4th trimester. Your ancestors were, in a real sense, all born 3 months too soon. Every single one of us was. Now picture that helpless, half-finished baby in a world with no doctors, no medicine, no clean water, no idea that a germ even existed. What were its chances? 2 researchers, Anthony Volk and Volk Atkinson, pulled together the numbers from dozens of hunter-gatherer and historical societies. Across thousands of years, from ancient Rome to the African savanna. And the figures barely moved from one to the next, which is exactly what makes them so chilling. About 1 in 4 babies died before their first birthday. And close to half of all children, half, never reached adulthood at all. Let that sit for a moment. For almost the entire human story, a parent could expect to bury 1 out of every 2 children they brought into the world. That was normal. That was the water everyone swam in. So how did we not simply vanish? How do you keep the most helpless baby in the animal kingdom alive against odds like that? You don't do it as one exhausted mother. You do it as a village. And this is the part that is genuinely beautiful. A chimpanzee mother won't let another chimp so much as touch her newborn for months. But a human mother, almost from the moment of birth, hands the baby around, to aunts, to sisters, to fathers, to friends. The anthropologist Sarah Blaffer Hrdy gave this a name: cooperative breeding, and she argued it changed who we are. Our babies became social. They learned to charm a whole circle of caretakers, to lock eyes, to babble, to smile. Because a baby who could win the love of many hands was a baby who lived. You were, quite literally, born to be adored by more than just your mother. And one pair of hands mattered more than almost any other. Not the mothers, the grandmothers. Starting in the 1980s, an anthropologist named Kristen Hawkes went to live among the Hadza, a hunter-gatherer people in Tanzania. She expected the strongest hunters to be the heroes of the food supply. Instead, she found that the hardest workers in the entire camp were the old women. Grandmothers, long past childbearing, spending hours in the heat digging deep, tough roots out of rocky ground, food that small children simply could not get for themselves, and feeding it straight to their grandchildren. And that cracked open a puzzle that had bothered scientists for years. Why do human women live for decades after they can no longer have children? No other ape really does this. A grandmother chimp is a rare thing. A grandmother human is the backbone of the family. Hawkes's answer is called the grandmother hypothesis, and it is staggering when you sit with it. A grandmother feeding her grandchildren freed the mother to have her next baby sooner, without the older ones starving. More children survived, and the families with long-living, hard-digging grandmothers passed those long lives down. Which means the reason you might get to grow old, the reason humans get a whole second half of life at all, may be that long ago old women simply refused to stop feeding children. Your lifespan is a gift from grandmothers you will never meet. There's one more trick, and it's my favorite, because you have done it yourself, without ever knowing where it came from. There was no soft baby food, no jars, no mush, no spoons. So when a baby was ready for solid food but had no teeth to chew it, an adult, usually the mother or the grandmother, chewed it for them. Chewed the meat or the root until it was soft, until their own saliva had begun to break it down and load it with things that fight off infection, and then passed it, mouth to mouth, straight to the child. It's called pre-mastication, or more tenderly, kiss feeding. And a good number of researchers think that this act of feeding your child from your own mouth may be where human kissing began. So the next time you kiss someone you love, you may be echoing one of the oldest gestures of care our species ever invented. Here, take this from me so that you can live. So now go back to that cave in Kenya. Back to the child with their knees curled up and their head resting on a pillow. That child made it through the impossible birth, was carried, helpless, for years, was passed between loving hands, fed from someone's mouth, kept alive by a mother and a grandmother and a whole community fighting odds that took half of all children. And then, at 2 or 3 years old, that child died anyway, as so many did. And here is what those grieving people did 78,000 years ago with no writing, no cities, nothing we would call civilization. They dug a grave. They wrapped the little body so it wouldn't be cold. They curled it up as if it were only sleeping. and they slid something soft beneath its head. We didn't come to rule the world because we were the strongest, or the fastest, or even the smartest animal out there. We did it because we kept each other's children alive, and because we grieved, with our whole hearts, the ones we couldn't save. The midwife's hands, the grandmother's roots, the food passed mouth to mouth, the pillow under a dead child's head. That is the oldest human technology there is. It isn't fire, or the spear, or the wheel. It's each other.